Paetongtarn Shinawatra, not the first in a powerful political family to be sacked from the top job. The Shinawatra dynasty has dominated civilian politics for the past quarter of a century, weathering a string of challenges. And in that survival, carving out a legacy that has reshaped the state of play in Thailand. Patriarch Thaksin Shinawatra elected to the top job in 2001 before becoming the first democratically elected leader to serve a full term in office. And in 2005, leading his Thai Rakthai party to what was also the first time a party in Thailand would secure an overall majority in parliament on its own strength. His party's populist policies winning rural voters, but in the process earning hostility and suspicion from the pro-monarchy and pro-military establishment, which saw Mr. Thaksin and his party posing threats to what they saw as the status quo social order. Dr. Shinawatra would be ousted in a military coup in 2006, and his Thai Rakthai party dissolved following a court order in 2007. Mr. Thaksin went into self-imposed exile for 15 years. Thai Rakthai's successor, that's the People's Power Party, won at the 2007 polls, bringing to office Thaksin's brother-in-law, that's Somchai Wongsawat. He became prime minister in 2008, but for a term that lasted no more than 3 months. The People's Power Party is suffering the same fate as its earlier incarnation, dissolution at the order of the Constitutional Court. But it would evolve and reform into the Pheu Thai Party that would send Mr. Thaksin's sister, Yingluck Shinawatra, into the top job in 2011. Like her brother, Yingluck had strong support in rural areas and amongst poorer voters, but not enough to secure her position from legal power play. The Constitutional Court removing her from office in May 2014 over abuse of power. Weeks later, the military would stage a coup and scuttle her government. The return of Thaksin to Thailand in 2023 came at a pivotal moment, just hours before MPs voted on a new prime minister. The election of Pheu Thai's Seta Thavisin then brought the party back into power in a coalition with former enemies in pro-military parties. A year later, Mr. Thaksin's youngest daughter, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, took on the premiership. But as a newcomer, she had little experience in government nor any significant political skills. Unlike the previous Shinawatras, the 39-year-old has been unable to connect with a wider Thai public, while Pheu Thai's policy proposals have not resonated as they have done in past years. Missteps culminating in her removal today from office. The clan's future has become increasingly uncertain amid a string of recent high-stakes court decisions, testing its political resilience. Mr. Thaksin survived a lèse-majesté charge last week, but he is awaiting verdict on a separate case. Analysts also point to Paetongtarn being the last known Shinawatra who could hold a top elected office position, at least for now. Then there is the question of whether the Shinawatras can still count on what has been, for more than 20 years, considerable mass appeal that has ensured its political survival. And for more on this story, Professor Duncan McCargo joins us here. He is the President's Chair in Global Affairs at Nanyang Technological University. Thanks for joining us, Professor McCargo. On this mass appeal, it does matter because it was one of the factors that we can call them the conservative establishment factored in when they decided to allow Mr. Thaksin to return to Thailand and his party to return to power.
Well, that's right. The Pheu Thai party and its previous incarnations, which you've talked about just now, have really been a formidable electoral machine. Thaksin's parties, in one way or another, won every election from 2001 through to 2019. They weren't always able to form a government or maintain a government in power after winning those elections. But that's the asset that Thaksin brought to the table in whatever understanding he had when he was able to return to Thailand in 2023, that he would bring his electoral support, which was very important for the Conservative side because they're facing another challenge from the so-called orange parties, the progressive parties, and it was the Progressive Move Forward party that actually ended up winning the largest number of seats in 2023. So Thaksin is needed, or was needed, a couple of years ago to repel the threat from the progressive side. Whether that is still a trump card that he can play is now really open to question.
And you are saying that because it's tempting to do this, and we need to make sure we do not overdo this, to read into this verdict on his daughter, Paetongtarn Shinawatra, as a suggestion that Mr. Thaksin Shinawatra may not be an asset anymore for those who might have backed him in the past.
Right. I mean, there are really two things that Thaksin could bring to the table when he came back almost exactly 2 years ago in 2023. One was that the supposed electoral popularity, although he didn't deliver the landslide that he was supposed to. He did get 141 seats for his Pheu Thai party, so it's a formidable block of MPs in Parliament. He also had an old reputation for restoring economic stability and growth, and that's something that the Pheu Thai party, under his shadow leadership over the past 2 years, has also failed to deliver. So the two key things that Thaksin and his party and his sort of his family dynasty were supposed to be able to do, they've not been able to do on this occasion.
So what we have heard in terms of who might be the next prime minister, who might make up the new governing coalition, earlier our correspondent confirming that the governing coalition, at least for now, at least in the last half an hour, has decided to stick together. That means 10 of them with Pheu Thai. And meanwhile, we have heard as well in the last few hours, the party that left the governing coalition, that's Bum Chai Thai, in June, saying it is reaching out again to the opposition party that you mentioned, the new incarnation of Move Forward. So that's currently now the People's Party. Yes, the People's Party.
Right. So at the moment, we have at least two scenarios, and there could be more scenarios because this is Thailand and things can get very complicated. Right now, we have the Bum Chai Thai party led by Anutin hoping that they can enlist votes from other parties, notably what's now called the People's Party, which is the largest single party in Parliament, asking the People's Party to endorse him to be an alternative prime minister. And on the other side, Thaksin is trying to keep his coalition together. His problem is he doesn't have a strong prime ministerial candidate. His candidate, Chaigasem Nitisiri, is elderly and not particularly well-known or well-regarded. So he's not a huge pull for the parties to stick together. So Thaksin's got a bit of a problem there. And Chaigasem also gave interviews suggesting that he would not be beholden to anybody if he became prime minister, which is not quite the right thing to say within earshot of Mr. Thaksin, who really would like to have a significant influence over whoever he nominates to be prime minister. So there's a set of problems on that side. But there's also a big set of problems for the People's Party if they were to support Anutin, because Anutin represents the kind of non-ideological, conservative, money-oriented politics that the People's Party is entirely against. So if they
we could argue Pheu Thai lost its appeal, at least on its reformist agenda, because it decided to get in bed, I suppose, with Bum Chai Thai earlier, before they broke up in June.
Right. That is the case. It's also the case, though, that the thing that Pheu Thai did, the ultimate crime, was to get involved with the explicitly pro-military parties, the two parties that were aligned with key figures associated with the 2014 coup, the so-called uncle parties. But yes, we do have a problem that if you join forces with a party that seems to represent a very different set of values from your own, you run the risk of alienating your core support and triggering a collapse in your vote. And this is a dangerous game for the People's Party, who may now think that they can get Bum Chai Thai on board with an early election and promoting reform of the constitution, but could find themselves in some difficulty explaining why it is that they raised their hands in Parliament to support someone like Anutin to become Prime Minister. That's not going to be an easy question for them to answer on the doorsteps come election time.
All right. That said, for what these polls are worth, so the NIDA poll, late June, putting forward what people felt were their most suitable prime ministerial candidates. So yes, winning that poll, not surprisingly, was the People's Party leader. Yes. Second was no suitable candidate. A third was, surprise, surprise, Prayut Chan-o-cha himself. Indeed. So we could see a return of that former prime minister who led a coup in 2014.
That is in theory possible. Now, General Prayut has been moved upstairs to the Privy Council, but after the 2006 coup, a member of the Privy Council, Surya Chulanon, was brought back to be Prime Minister. So there is a precedent for such a manoeuvre. It's also possible to wonder whether Thaksin himself, if he knows that Chaigasem will not fly as a prime ministerial candidate, might be willing to embrace an unlikely choice of prime minister in order to keep his coalition together and to be able to fight against the fairly formidable powers of Bumjaitai at this point.
All right, we've run out of time and I regret that. So likely, whoever is prime minister, we're looking at even more uncertainty in the times ahead. Very quickly.
I'm afraid so, yes.
Thanks so much for joining us, Professor Duncan McCargo, President's Chair in Global Affairs at Singapore's NTU. Thank you for coming.